Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? How in the world are you? This is your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, and we're here knocking it out of the park here on another great episode. Excuse me, I'm just jacked up on Mountain Dew of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, coming at you live from the KU Dungeon, aka Kicked Up Fitness, over at Annapolis Business Parkway, or I should say National Business Parkway, Annapolis Junction, Maryland, not far from Jessup, Maryland, off of like 32 and 175 for those that are familiar. Shout out to Sean Queen, who is the owner and proprietor of this gym, this establishment. Sir, if you're listening, as always, I want to say thank you. I appreciate the space. I appreciate your love and support for this podcast, and I just appreciate you as a person. Words cannot express how much love and respect I got for you, man. So, thank you. You know, it's all good in the hood. Real quick, I just want to send out a little bit of a message because I've been reading something recently. I've been reaching out a lot about a certain situation about, like, when it comes to podcasters and taking a break and so forth. And there's some people that are like, they're going one way. There are people that are going another way. Let me give you a little bit of, my opinion. And this is coming straight from me. This is nobody else's opinion but myself. We as podcasters do this because we love it. It's a great creative medium. It's a way to have fun, be goofy, do what we want to do. And that's the most important thing, right? We're just there to, do our own thing, have fun, and not answer to the man out there that's telling us, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. That's what I was here for. 100%. Now, there's going to be times that, I'm going to be worked a lot. The work pile and the level of work is a little bit on overload, where it goes from a little bit from yellow to a little bit borderline red. And let me give you a little bit of you may call it a secret. I'm just going to call it common sense. If at any point, ladies and gentlemen, you feel like, whoa, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, pump the brakes. For real, just take time out for yourself and just say, you know what, I need some time off. And there's no specific time frame of, how much time that you need. If you need a day, that's fine. If you need a week, that's fine. If you need, I'll just throw it out there, a month, maybe 2 months, that's fine. I'm not mad at it. The only thing that I would be mad about is that if you don't take time out for yourself to recharge and give yourself that proper time. So for all you guys that are wondering and, you just didn't know what's going on, that's my advice to you, is to take that time off for yourself. I get it. I mean, there are some people out there that are blessed to have a crew, and that's good, and, in that sense, you don't have a lot of pressure building upon you. But if you happen to be like a small man crew or a one-man crew, I get it. And at that point, make sure that you check on yourself constantly, because, you don't want, they say that, in life, you burn the candle at both ends. I feel like with podcasting, you burn it at like all ends, north, south, east, and west, and maybe northeast and, northwest and so forth. So guys, take it from me. Take that time for yourself, breathe, go out for a walk, you know what I mean? Or go somewhere and meditate or do whatever. Don't think about it until you're ready, until you're passionate again, and you're ready to just say, okay, it's time to go back in the booth. It's time to turn on that microphone, and it's time to turn on the magic. So, a little tip for the pros there, ladies and gentlemen, tip for the pros. I am excited because I have a guest with me. I honestly didn't think that this was going to happen because honestly, with what I know of her, it's kind of hard to get her a little bit because time management with her schedule and my schedule, so it's a little bit of a hit or miss sometimes. But I was really glad when I reached out to her. She said yes, and I've known her for many years. Now, from what I remember, half of her life she's actually been in the field of of entertainment. She has been an actress. She has recently have done her own thing now, where she has her own podcast. It is on YouTube right now, but soon I think that it's going to be on other podcasting platforms, and we'll talk a little bit about that, which is called the Thru Podcast with Monica Leigh. And she's also done other things too that we will talk about. And she is a Maryland native. She's here in the flesh right now. So for the one time, ladies and gentlemen, the host of the Thru Podcast with Monica Leigh, I have Monica Leigh in the building, live in the flesh. Monica, what's going on, hon?
Hi, Kim. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first official podcast that as I'm the guest. So I'm very grateful, very thankful, and thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny because social media is a very, very powerful tool. And when I saw that you posted on your social media that you decided to go into podcasting, I was like, whoa, really? Because, for the longest time, I knew you as a local film actress within the DMV.
Yeah, so he's not lying about that. For me, I think that being in the creative space has always resonated with me. Mm-hmm. I have a background, as Kim has mentioned, in entertainment, about 16 years in the media world, focusing on the last 12 to 13 years in sports. So I've always enjoyed sports. I grew up in a sports family, but I also majored in dance at the University of Maryland, College Park, a very long time ago, but that's okay, because I'm not afraid to say how old I am. But so the creative space has always been very important to me. And then I think it was probably around maybe 2 years ago, I just always thought that there was something more in me.
Right.
And that's kind of how I thought about, well, what if I wanted to do a podcast someday? And I think the real reason that I wanted to do it is, number one, and it's very simple, 2 reasons. Number one, I love to talk. Number 2, I'm very good at it. It's never been like a job to me. And the 2 biggest things that I let people know and understand is that my podcast has 2 key elements that are meaningful and that are important to me and that resonate with my brand, and that is connection and engagement.
Right on. Okay. Well, let's backtrack it a little bit. I mean, now that we have loaded up the movie, I'm going to start with chapter 1. You're a Marylander born and raised. Whereabouts in Maryland are you originally from?
So I'm born and bred in, if you will, in PG County.
Okay.
So, and I've lived in Maryland my whole life.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Laurel. I've lived in many surrounding areas, from Montgomery County, from Rockville, Silver Spring, Columbia, and now I have kind of found my way back to Laurel again, just to be fully transparent. So it was several years ago that not only my mom but my dad were both diagnosed with cancer, and it was just not even a decision that I had to even think about. It was a decision that made sense, and it was a right decision to me to move back to where I grew up, which was literally my parents' house. And it was one thing to have my dad at the point of his diagnosis, with my mom being his caretaker, but it changed when my mom was also diagnosed a few months afterwards. And then I'm thinking, well, who's going to be taking care of her? She can't do everything.
Right.
So I just took it upon myself to just find my way back to my roots, if you will. And so the rest has been history in that sense. Unfortunately, my dad had passed away this past February. It was 5 years. And I know that my dad had always, mentioned, hey, Monica, whatever you do, just make sure you take care of mom. And that was a no-brainer for me. I'm very much a family-oriented person. So family means everything to me. So at that moment, it was kind of like I never really thought about, oh, well, when am I going to leave? Where am I moving to next? And then I also have a 17-year-old son who really is a man-child now to me that's about to graduate from high school. So there were all these other factors, but I felt like it was nothing that I looked at, wow, I'm moving backwards or I'm not even moving forwards. It was just the right thing to do.
I feel that. What were you like, back in the days as a young, Monica? Was she a popular kid? Was she shy? Was she creative? Was she into sports, athletically? I mean, where was she at?
So young Monica, a.k.a. Young Monty, most of my close friends, family will call me Monty. I was always that child, that young girl that, if your parents said, don't talk to a stranger, I was doing the opposite.
Okay.
I was the one that just wanted to engage.
Right.
It's funny because here we are all these years later and that word still resonates with me. I was, like any little girl or boy for that matter that wanted to grow up and either be an actress, or go into dance. I did both. So it started off with ballet, tap, and jazz. And then I literally just fell in love with that. The passion for movement, creating, and dancing is all about communicating too.
Right.
And then it kind of, I guess, extended over to theater. I didn't really have too much of a theater background, but I just love being in the moment of drama, if you will.
Yep.
And just exploring. And then I enjoyed that too, because why would you have to just stop with one entity of being in a creative space as dance, right? Just keep going. And then from there, I felt like it just happened because I was being positioned, or maybe the universe was telling me, hey, Monica, you know what? Hey, there's a casting call. Oh, what are headshots? Oh, you need an acting coach too? And as you know, Kim, like the DMV, it's a community within itself.
Yep.
There's a lot of strong talent in the creative space in this area.
Yep.
You don't need to go to LA or New York City or Miami, although those are the big cities. But guess what? DC really is, in the surrounding area of the DMV, it is a strong network of talented individuals. And I would just love for it to keep on building and building and building. And ladies and gentlemen, one thing Kim mentioned in the beginning is that, yes, we've known each other through the film side of things. We've also worked together on films because, a lot of the relationships that I have been able to say that, they're very authentic and genuine relationships are based off of things that make me happy. Acting, performing, and I'm sure Kim can attest to that too. Like-minded people just naturally find like-minded environments.
For sure. Absolutely. 100%. You grew up in a multicultural background where your dad was African-American and your mom was white.
That's correct.
Being, a biracial child, and I have a lot of friends that are biracial, they have told me that there had been, some of them have told me that, either A, life was good and there really wasn't much of a challenge, or B, there was a little bit of a struggle because, you're not only just this, but you're also this.
Right.
So did you find that there was a little bit of challenge of being a young biracial individual growing up in the world?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And, with just the things that are happening today in this country, in this world, I'm sure that there's so many of us that wish we could kind of go back to the way it was when we were growing up, when things were just simple. People could just like people for who they are.
Yeah.
And so I say that because not only is my mom white, she's also a Jewish white American. And then my dad was not only African American, he was also from a Roman Catholic upbringing, which is crazy when people are like, how did that even work?
Right.
Because you have two strong religions. So to answer your question in terms of just the actual ethnicity side of it, I never did. And I'm so fortunate, I guess, if you want to put it like that, and very thankful. And I had friends from like all different backgrounds, religions, because you didn't look at people for color or for what their beliefs are. You just looked at people for their integrity, how they made you feel, and just being around good human beings. So
sure.
I was very thankful for that. It's not to say that, obviously, my parents didn't, have to deal with any of those issues, but they were together for 47 years and they were married for 44, and that was literally till death do them apart.
Yeah.
So I was very thankful for that. And also, I had a lot of friends, even today, that I still speak to that remind me and say, hey, Monica, your parents literally were trailblazers for me, because these were people that were trying to figure out how it would be to date a different race or a different, religion,
right.
religious background.
Right.
So it makes you feel good just to hear that. And my parents were always a family that welcomed anyone. It was a very happy, safe space, and we always had fun growing up too at my parents' house. So
I don't know why certain people in general sometimes trip about that, because if you think about it, like historically, like when let's just say, for example, I'm hanging out with random people and they're just like, I don't know about multi-race dating, kind of a thing. I would just tell them, like, look, if you want to go back to to the history books, I mean, Bruce Lee married a white woman,
right.
Okay? I mean, and they had a great life. Unfortunately, Brandon Lee didn't make it, God rest his soul, but he made great movies. And you had Shannon Lee, and then they started, dating other races too. So, you can't stop, what's already happening. It's like, it's like a tidal wave, once it's coming, you're not going to stop, the power.
Right.
So, you can either kind of embrace it for what it's worth and just move along with it, or you can be that person that's on the sidelines that are just trying to be crazy in their own thought, thinking that they can stop an unstoppable force, and then feel like oh my gosh, this is the aftermath, this is the what not to do kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
So for all y'all that are just hating, y'all better stop it now. Stop it right now. The olden days of hating in your grandfather's time and before their time, it's over. It's over.
Yep.
Deal with it. That's all I'm saying. So let's go ahead and dig in a little bit more. Obviously, you were very creative as a young person, doing a lot of dance and so forth. I take it that with dancing and everything, that kind of translated in doing that even through maybe high school days and so forth?
Yes. So I was on the pom-pom squad at Laurel High School all for years.
Okay, yeah, Laurel High School, yeah.
And in fact, speaking of dance, this is my 16th season of being a certified judge for MABTA, which I did literally yesterday do a competition. And MABTA stands for Mid-Atlantic Dance and Pom Association. So it's a nonprofit organization where we are either the solo host or we co-host with other local high schools, and we've got teams from all over, not even just from Maryland or the DMV, I should say now. We've had, some schools coming from Pennsylvania, even like maybe New Jersey, New York that have shown an interest. So it just kind of brings me back to my roots and reminds me of my first love, which was dance and performing. But also throughout high school, and pom and dance was just one entity of high school dancing. I did dance throughout college, and then beyond college too. I ended up performing, also choreographing, and I am an alumni of the University of Maryland, College Park, Terp for life.
Go Terps.
Go Terps. And so I also think that having an injury in college that required surgery on my foot, and listen, it happens with any athletes working in that space. You always know that there is going to be that possibility of getting injured. You know, I mean, you probably can attest to this, Kim, even in martial arts.
Yep.
You know, sometimes even as safe as we try to make sure that we are and protect ourselves at all costs, sometimes things still happen. And
freak accidents do happen.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's life. So I was, you know, and it took a toll on me, I think, honestly, more so mentally than it did physically, because as a dancer, you know, and your legs are literally your instrument.
Correct, yeah.
So when that instrument becomes damaged, broken, out of order, if you will,
Right.
mentally, you've got all these things going through your head, like, will I ever dance again? You know, will I get back to where I was at one point? Am I able to even perform at the level that I was? The one thing, though, that I realized is that, and it happened my senior year of college, so I think it kind of like hit a little bit harder than if it was my sophomore, even my junior year.
Okay.
And the one thing it made me realize is that rest, reflection, it is part of recovery. And it's okay. And also, one of my favorite teachers, mentors, his name is Alvin Mays. He was one of my contemporary dance professors at the University of Maryland. So Alvin, if you're hearing this, thank you so much just for everything that you've poured into me. But he was also my mentor. So it extended beyond the dance floor. And I will never forget this conversation that we had that just resonated to me, that it was just because you're not dancing, at least not at this moment, doesn't mean that you can't create still.
Right.
It was just a different entity of performing, and that's where choreography came into place. And I started showcasing a piece that initially I had positioned for myself. At the time, I was the only amateur choreographer outside of some major choreographers when I was still at the University of Maryland. And somehow, some way, I got selected, but it was also bittersweet because it was at that time that I had to make a decision that it was like, okay, Monica, do you just completely pull out of, you know, the whole showcase, or do you recreate that piece on somebody that could resonate with your movement, with your story, with your passion? And I did.
Right.
And I think that it's just a reminder also to people that you can find other ways to utilize and use your craft,
Right.
as long as you're open to it.
I feel that. Now, slightly rewinding back a little bit, you said that you went to the University of Maryland College Park. You said that your major was in dance. Before you even became a student of the University of Maryland and you know, taking that acceptance letter and whatnot, did you yourself feel like that was where you wanted to go professionally, and that you were willing to go all the way, even with college, for that to be your major, and then when you graduated to hopefully have a career within the dancing industry?
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked that to me. So to answer the first question, Maryland was always one of my top schools.
Okay.
But I didn't know until I got there that I really wanted to pursue the possibility of having a profession, or a degree, I should say, at that time. Initially, I was looking in going into psychology, which, obviously I didn't major in that. And also, I just wanted to add that I majored in not only dance, but also business. And at the time, like I said, it was going to be psychology. Obviously, it didn't go in that direction, but I don't regret it. And it's kind of like the same thing, like, in life. You might have a plan for yourself initially, and you could have researched it and studied to a T, but things change, life change, and change is okay. So when I got to Maryland, and I just figured, hey, you know what, I just want to take a couple of dance classes, that's it. But I guess it was, I never fell out of love with dance, but it reinvented my love even more so for wanting to continue dance and to make it be my primary focus in school. And like so many other dancers, usually hear the negativity of, what are you going to do with that? It's hard profession to get into. If you want to go to New York, you're going to have to work 3, 4, jobs. You're going to be, struggling. And I'm not saying that these are not real life scenarios or these are not real things to think about. But when you are living in your passion in that moment, you're not thinking about that. You're just doing what makes you happy.
For sure.
And dancing is what made me happy. And I would go up to, even when I was in college, I would go up to New York on the bus. Do they still make the what is it, Vamoose? Do they still, or the Bolt bus? They
the Bolt bus, yep.
So yep. I would take a, round trip, same day coming back, bus trip up to New York, go, and I had found acting coach and would do that at least every Saturday for months. Because even if we don't see what it appears to be success just going to see an acting coach, because I think a lot of us are always thinking, oh, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you're expecting instant gratification. I am very guilty of that myself, especially growing up, because we're so excited about the space that we want to be in that we forget about actually the grind that it takes to actually be successful in there.
Right on.
So from there, it's just that I just kept pushing myself, right? And I always tell people that even if you don't feel that there's change that's happening, as long as you keep showing up for yourself, that's the most important thing.
Were there any backup schools or alternate schools that you wanted to pursue if Maryland was not on the target? Like if you missed that target?
I think for me, obviously, Maryland being the top, but then you always looked at, I think for me, because nowadays I think so many people, students that are going on to their college journey, they're looking for, hey, let me just go out of state because they don't want to be around their family, or they've been around their family their whole life, so they want change, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So for me, I think back then it was just about staying local. So Towson had been another one, UMBC, like the local schools. And again, these schools were just because they were local, not so much because of a dance program or a creative type of degree to be leaning towards. But ultimately, outside of that, yes, NYU, New York University, Tisch School of Fine Arts, obviously people looked at Juilliard, which was way out of my league, but it was just that you just saw what beautiful types of artists came from those schools. So it's like, why not hope, wish, one day, maybe not.
Right. So you graduated from Maryland, class of what?
So for my undergraduate degree, I graduated in the class of 2000. Okay.
And if I remember correctly, because I tuned in to an episode of The Drive-Thru, you got your master's.
I did.
Nice.
I did.
Was that also at Maryland?
That was also at Maryland. So, and you are very spot on, Kim. That was in my episode 3.
Your recent episode.
My recent episode, which was showing up even when you're still tired.
Yep.
And what I alluded to that was my own experience as going back later on in life to get my master's degree. So there was like a 10 plus year time span, if you will, of when I received my master's degree. And that was in public relations management. And I was just having this conversation with actually one of my friends the other day. And I said, you know what, it's so crazy because we used to be, in this mindset of thinking, okay, everything has to be dictated by age, and that's not the case, not anymore. Right. And I think that that's what it is. Go to college. Okay, once you graduate from your undergraduate degree, guess what? You have to immediately go to grad school, and it's not the case. I mean, I'm a walking, testimony of it. And because also people have got different things going on in their life.
For sure.
They're busy, they have families, they could be caregivers, they have kids, they have spouses, they're traveling, what have you. So that's where I really touch upon also is like just allowing yourself grace, If you set your mind to it, just do it, as long as you just start, it doesn't matter when you do it. Just do it when you're comfortable with it and on your own time.
I feel that. I mean, this is not exactly the same thing, but I'll just throw this as reference. Back in the day when I was in the martial arts, like I literally quit, freshman year of high school. Because then at that point, it was just like, man, I got so much things going on right now. I'm trying to hang out. I'm trying to make friends. I'm trying to do things and so forth. And, fast forward it years later, because, I graduated, class of 97 or something like that. And years later, I think maybe in 2000 and I think maybe 3, because the last time that I actually did actively train was probably 10 years prior in 1993, I think. I just said, you know what, I'm kind of hungry. I really want to go ahead and do it again. And sure enough, I hit the ground running, and within I think maybe a year and a half, earned that first degree black belt. And I felt like, it was great because a lot of people were talking to me afterwards, like, man, you took a long hiatus and you came back, and you had that fire in your eye, like you had that mission that you needed to complete.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I definitely understand where you're coming from in that respect, because to come back to do a master's degree and maybe taking like a little bit of a grace period, it's not easy.
Not at all.
It's very challenging. And for you to, just to say, I'm going to start doing it and pick up where I left off. Number one, hats off to you, because then not many people decide to go through that rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
And number two, not many people are willing to see what is on the bottom of that rabbit hole.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Right.
That's really awesome. At what point, when you graduated from Maryland, what came first? You being in the media, or finally deciding to pursue acting in terms of in the DMV?
I think actually they kind of overlapped each other.
Okay.
Because as soon as I graduated from Maryland, again, getting my master's was not even an option. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like, oh, wow, I just graduated. Let's go make some money,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then at one point, I thought that I wanted to be in the physical therapy space, also kind of like an entity of being a dancer, having an injury that really was... it did put the pause on what I was going to end up doing with that. And I kind of felt like, okay, maybe if I go into physical therapy, I can have a better understanding and help, not just the athletes, but even, dancers, gymnasts that are going through what I went through, to say, hey, you know what? It's not like a permanent setback, and they always say the comeback is better than what the setback was.
Right. Yeah.
So that was kind of to me thinking, okay, I just graduated, I've been doing dance, but I also like the acting space. And I think I just started just going out there because at Maryland, it was never that I maybe took like 1 or 2 theater classes, but nothing to the point where it was hardcore to know like just the fundamentals and just for fun. But just being around so many people that had so many, similar backgrounds like mine, and even the ones that didn't have, the same backgrounds. In fact, sometimes the ones that had things that were opposite, hey, oh, you're in production, you didn't do any, actual performing, but you're on the production side. Hey, you know what? That sounds interesting. Can you maybe show me a thing or two, or can I shadow you? I've always wanted to be a learner,
right?
And I think it's important for people to want to learn things, not being forced or coerced, but wanting to do things that make you feel good or just spark an interest. And so I think they did go hand in hand. And then that's just when life just got busier, and it's like, more auditions came up. Oh, let me update my headshots, and here comes an acting coach, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't seen this person in such and such. Oh yeah, and we're definitely going to be working on, the same film together.
Yep.
So I felt like it just all came together, and it was busy, but busy just was good for me.
Now, if I remember correctly, you being like in the media, sports media, if I'm getting this right, and I do apologize in advance if I got this wrong, but I thought that you were doing like sports stuff for like the local NBC channels in the Washington, D.C. area.
Yes, you are correct. So
Yep.
I worked at, initially, when I first got my foot in the door for just television, it was with Fox 5 WTTG and UPN, my TV 20, which is right on Wisconsin. I mean, that was like fresh out of college. And
that was a heck of a drive over there.
Yes. So it was, and actually I think I was living in Burtonsville. So I was still local to, the Laurel area, but still, going into DC, I don't have to tell anybody, probably everybody doesn't want to, they don't think about, necessarily, oh, it's close, but, the potholes and everything else that comes with DC driving, I don't miss it. I love the city, don't get me wrong, but I don't miss the commutes or getting there, if you will, So, but I started off as a traffic coordinator there, and what that is basically somebody that helps to place, like, for example, if you're watching television and you see a show, that you're watching and it cuts to commercials, I was in charge of the placement of those commercials.
Okay.
So I'm literally editing the way that you're seeing as coming out of that show, going into the commercials. I was the one that was in charge of the placement and how basically the run of show would look before coming back to your regular scheduled program.
For sure.
And then after that, it was just like, okay, so I got my feet wet in that. I've worked at the CW, and yes, I worked at NBC Sports Washington, and then have done so many other things like, just going out to supporting, live events, high school, college. When I was at NBC Sports, I did, which was kind of like a fluke, but I don't want to ever call it that because I loved everything about it. It was called the Shrink Wrap. And what it was is that I played a host. Well, I was the host, I should say, but as a host, I played a shrink, if you will. And my co-host, he would basically, we'd have this little skit that would come in. This was like a pre-game type of, or a pre-show type of show, leading up to the Wizards game.
Yep.
Right. And so I was the shrink, and it was just kind of like comedic. We didn't think it would really take off, but we had 2 seasons of it, and it was just a lot of fun. But I loved it because I just got to be in a space that felt comfortable. Number one, sports, as I love it. Basketball is one of my favorite sports to watch. I didn't play it, but my son, he plays it, and he's passionate about it. But it is just one of my favorite sports that I just enjoy just being around.
Yeah.
But also just the comedic side, because anybody that knows me, I'm sarcastic. I love to joke. I love to laugh. And so it became kind of fun. But then, like I said, we didn't think that it would even take off. So it was fun while it lasted, and I kind of just felt like, okay, maybe that's something that I would like to stay involved with.
Right.
And I, I've worked in other, areas of broadcast where, I, obviously oversaw operations. On the production side, I was the liaison for, 5, in the programming sector of it, 5 major international basketball leagues, Canada, which is CEBL, Liga Serie A, which is Italy, ACB, which is Spain, WNBL, which is the Washington National Basketball League. So it's second behind the WNBA. They're based out of Australia. And then Easy Credit BBL, and that's Germany. And yes, when people look at me kind of sideways when I say BBL, no, I'm talking about the actual basketball teams.
Right.
So it's just been nice, and I just felt like, you know what, why not add podcasting? As like I said, my dad always used to say, don't talk about it, be about it, or I can show you better than I can tell you. And I'm kind of like, wow, these things or these sayings, especially coming from my father, they resonate with me.
What made you step outside of that limelight? Because I think that I don't know for sure, but it seems like we haven't seen much activity with you in that area for quite some time.
Yeah, so I think the last, in terms of film, that I actually was in was a few years ago. And Derek Dixon, he also has a great podcast called Talking Heads 3D. Sorry, Derek, if I did not get that spot on, but we've worked together also in the film space. But I was on in a theater stage play that he directed, produced, wrote. It was called Wounded, and that was actually just a monumental type of time for me, because I came from film. I stopped, I focus on sports media, loved that, and still being in that space, I did miss the performing side of things. And there was an audition, and I tried out. And I'm going to tell you, I always tell people, and this is just my personal opinion, I think theater-trained actors and actresses, they are probably the most pure actors and actresses there are, because when it comes to theater, when it comes to stage, there is no take two, let's reset again. You just go with it. If you mess up, you're the only person that knows that you messed up, outside of your fellow actors, right? In film, we are so fortunate, and we're so privileged, because guess what? You could take 60 takes. I mean, hopefully not that many, but we can take so many takes, and people don't realize post-production is really what makes all the, beauty come to life. That's where all the fluff and the zhuzh and everything come to life with making a well-structured and beautifully put film. So getting back into the theater space, thank goodness for rehearsals continuously. And it's just like, wow, like this is so different. And I'm being reinformed, if you will, all over again of how to get comfortable. And I also talk about that also on my podcast, is learning how to be comfortable as you are being uncomfortable, right? Because we don't like to be put in uncomfortable spaces. It feels weird. It feels unsettling. But if we can learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and not overthinking it, I mean, there's some pretty fantastic things that can come from that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking on your IMDb page, and it is an extensive resume. Collide, drug-related 2 and 3, 25 years, Letters from Sam, Detective MJ, Shadow of a Hero, The Detour, Detective MJ, Our Nation's Capital, and the last thing that you did, I think it's called No Peace, No Quiet. You definitely had like a decorated career. One of them being, if I remember correctly, you were nominated for Best Actress. I don't think it was the WMIFF. I think it was like another thing, but it was like another June DeGuizzo event. And you were nominated for Best Actress alongside Ali Lukowski, who at the time was in Roulette.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that for Collide?
I believe it was with Collide. God, then that seems like forever ago.
Yeah.
But I really, really just enjoyed that whole cast, just the whole cast, and I think it speaks truth when you can actually love the people that you work with, and it's not just you're working on a film, but that those are forever connections, you know? Even if you've not seen these people in years or worked with them in years, I definitely, you know, I try to stay in touch, you know, with people that I've worked in, you know, different films. But I always tell people I don't need to ever win something, even in today, you know, in films. And speaking of, you know, the Oscars, you know, even if you don't win, be nominated, you should just be proud of that, because not many people, a fraction of people, can say that they've ever been nominated for something at that level. But even at a smaller level, right, within, you know, independent films, and I really just want to encourage people, please, please, please support indie films. Please do, because, you know, there's a lot of people that have been discovered because of independent films that are now big A-listers. And I always want to reiterate, you have to start someplace. And all you need is one yes. All you need is one person to look at you and say yes. Yes to him, yes to her, just yes.
Are there people that you have worked with that you still keep in touch with actively from your time as being an actor?
I wouldn't say in terms of actively, in terms of film, like actually like auditioning, or, you know, can you tell me about any upcoming casting, you know, auditions? And I don't think it's a bad thing, because it's not on purpose. It's just life. But in busyness and just with what's going on with everyone's everyday way of you know, their lives. But I will say that I do check on people, like, you know, for example, you, Kim, you know, I'm very humbled that you reached out to me. I'm very grateful, because everyone, I just want to make note, this is my first interview on someone else's podcast. So
and you're doing a heck of a job.
And I take that, you know, I don't take that for granted. This is very much a humbling experience, because I didn't know what to expect. But again, I could say, am I uncomfortable being in this space? No, because I love to talk, and I like to engage, and I like to connect. But it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
But so I'm very grateful for you having me on today. But I would actually, to touch upon what you said, I really would like to stay more in touch with my colleague film actors, actresses, writers, producers, directors, you know, the whole kit and caboodle. You know, I really want to. And I'm not against trying to, you know, get back into acting in terms of being actively going to auditions and such. Especially, you know, my son is going to go off to college in the fall, and I feel like, you know, this is, you know, now another chance for me to start again.
Yeah.
You know, and just focus, you know, on me and the things that I've missed, you know, let them resurface.
They've always said that when it comes to acting and being in the film industry, there's always, you know, obviously good points, because you make connections, you have a great experience in being in a very good project that is very memorable. But on the flip side of the coin, there's always that, you know, the bad side, you know, a lot of drama, hoopla, he said, she said, all that stuff. What was your experience, if you had any, when it came to, you know, the drama side of the acting industry? And if you dealt with it personally, how did you deal with that?
Honestly, I don't think I was ever in a position where there was quote unquote drama, no pun intended.
Right.
But there was definitely, you saw the differences of being on different sets and how people interacted. Yes, there were some actors and actresses that would rather, you know, and this is not a bad thing, wanted to go off in a corner or in another room to go over their lines. You know, I always would be that one type of person that was up for, hey, Monica, you want to go over lines together, especially if we were in a scene together.
For sure.
But even if we weren't in a scene together, just to, practice lines for that person. Just because I didn't do a specific scene with that person, I never looked at it as, their part or their scene wasn't important. You know what I mean? Like we all become better just helping each other.
Right.
I would say, though, that if anything, I just had some of the best times on set, from the bloopers to just learning about different people. I mean, there were people that, maybe that you always thought about working with, and even if it was just to, almost A-listers, and I say almost, that it was like they were well known and they were getting exposure in, the major cities, LA, New York City, but just to be able to be around them, sometimes just being around somebody in their presence, it can actually kind of bounce off of them to you. But I've also learned to understand the things that work, the things that don't work, and also learning how to have boundaries. Even, I don't care if you're an actor or you work in corporate America, boundaries are important.
Yep.
So if somebody were to say, hey, can we go over this? Can we over that? Sure. But it also goes to saying, like, if somebody needs a break, allow them that break.
Yeah.
Without getting offended, or
Right.
taking it personal. So,
Right.
but no, I never had any negative experiences. And like I said, every set has been different. I've actually learned there are more stricter directors and producers, and then you've got the more, nonchalant, laid back directors too. And that goes also with, the actors and the writers too. Some of them are very serious and they don't want you being, quote unquote, in their space until it's necessary.
Yep.
There's some that are like, hey, you know what? Like, come over here. Let's go over our lines. Let's do a rundown. Let's just mark everything. What are you doing next week? So, and I'm okay with either scenario.
Okay. Now, this is something that I just thought about. Obviously, we have acknowledged, we got a powerhouse full of talented people in the DMV when it comes to, the local film industry. Was there, any actors that you yourself wish that you could have worked with that you didn't have the chance? And it's just kind of like, biting you in the behind, and you're like, man, I wish I could have, worked with this person, or wish I could have worked with this person, or I wish I could have worked with this person.
You put me on the spot, Kim.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
To be honest, none that I can think of, right? Because I know that there's so many talented people in this area. Mm-hmm. And I know also there are, there's so many people there are quite a bit of A-listers that are from this area, whether they're musical artists or, an actor, actress. So none that I can think of as of right now. I think I've literally had an opportunity to work with so many talented people.
Right.
So I'll get back to you on that, but because there's just so many. There's so many talented and wonderful people in this area, and people that, I want to really also say that just because somebody is not in LA or you've not seen them in anything major with any major lines or other major actors, it doesn't mean that they're not good.
Right.
And just because you're not seeing something right now doesn't mean that they're not working.
For sure.
And that goes with anybody in any type of, career that you choose.
Right.
Just because you're not seeing somebody, and let's just talk about like the social media space. Just because you don't see every little nook and cranny that somebody is doing does not mean that they are not working.
For sure. Yep. I agree with that. I'll say this to answer that question for myself. If there were some people that I wish that I could have worked with that I haven't, mm-hmm. 3 or that I don't work with frequently.
Right.
The 3 that come into my mind, and really they're all actresses, so they're all female. One of them would be Leigh Chamish. who I thought, damn, that woman can act, and like if she was given any specific role whatsoever, she would nail it. And to me, I feel like she's that good.
Right.
Ali Lukowski.
Okay, I was going to say her too.
Yeah.
So sorry,
Yeah.
because we worked together, but we didn't work directly together. But
Right.
but I definitely will agree with you with her.
Right. Well, her and I, we worked on Roulette. Obviously, not in the same film and stuff like that. Or like I'm sorry, the same scene, but we would definitely worked on the same film. You definitely, for sure. Just because of the fact we only did Drug Related 3 together
Right.
that one time.
Right.
And I felt like, there could have been an opportunity for something more outside of that project. Like, it could have been like another project that we could have worked on.
Right.
But,
Hey.
unfortunately, we missed that target.
No, but guess what, Kim? The beauty of asking for the universe is you ask and you shall receive. So let's just put it out there that the next project, film, a project that is going to be coming up and coming, if you will.
Right.
Guess what? We're going to work together. I'm putting it out there right there.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I feel like, I felt like, maybe like, how can I say it? Like, I was like Stephen Curry in his rookie year, and he was like, working with like, with this guard and this guard, and it just, the longevity didn't work. So I feel like, if there's somewhere down the line that we could run it back,
Absolutely.
I would love to.
I'm here for it.
Let's talk about your podcast, because it's brand new. I think that you have about 3 episodes in now.
That's correct.
3 episodes, yeah. And you said that you wanted to do it because obviously you're very expressive. You like to talk. You're all about it and everything like that, which is awesome. It's really awesome. But do you think for yourself personally that you took it as like, well, I've already done acting. I've already done media. Let's see if I can spice things up in this mode of creativity, and let's see where I can go with it. Did you think that you could just walk in there and just easily make that slam dunk for your first play?
I don't even know how to do a dunk anyway, so
I'm just saying.
We can pretend, but guess what? I'm all for it. So I think for me, wanting to do and start the drive-through was obviously it had been weighing on me for I'd say about 2 years.
Okay.
And I was trying to, and I think sometimes, and I'm, guilty of it, is overthinking, and I'm thinking like, okay, when should I start it? When should it launch? When does the first episode drop? So, and the first episode and the launch of the actual podcast, it happened on February 26th of 2026, so
Right.
2/26/26.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
New episodes drop every Thursday at noon. And I think that it also serves as an outlet, even for myself, to hold myself accountable to my reach for wanting to, I guess, get to people, like I mentioned before, is about connection and engagement. Every single episode, it varies, right? My last few episodes, they've talked about just real life topics. Episode 2 is, the things we don't talk about.
Yep.
I have received a lot of great feedback from that specific episode where people. I had one listener that she sent to me and she said, Monica, this resonated with me so much that it had her kind of questioning all the things from years back that people told her that she was too late to do, too old to do it, nobody is going to be interested in you. And that also goes back to when we talked about earlier on this podcast about, it doesn't matter when you start, just as long as you start with my masters.
Right.
So the things that I spoke on that were really focused in on so many things that we are afraid to share because we're afraid of being judged or people looking at us differently. But the thing is, though, is I also let people know that this is a safe space. I want people to be able to comment like that. I mean, this woman had me in tears just, hearing this message from her. And because I know what I'm saying is not because it's just for fluff or just to say something because that's what people want to hear. It's also because I'm also wanting these conversations to be relatable, and that's also very important to me as well.
Right.
So my podcast is really going to fluctuate on topics, but there are going to be relatable topics. Now, I say this because relatable doesn't always translate to it's always got to be serious. Although the last couple have been serious in the sense that these are just topics that come up on a daily basis, right? But they will definitely be, they will vary. And I will say that it being my first season, right now it's just me solo talking, not conversational, but it will eventually be conversational. And I'm just looking forward to what's next. So I've just been feeling all the love. Like I said, I'm brand new to this. I have, I've taken, a course, on podcasts, but I always think just because you take a course on somebody's podcast or a major podcaster, it doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, that's all you need to know, because learning is forever.
Yeah. For sure.
Learning is forever. And, but like even just being here with you, Kim, just seeing how we're engaging. I mean, it feels very natural, just two people having a conversation, just chatting it up, and I think that's what's important. If you can talk about things that people want to hear, but more importantly, the things that you're talking about that people maybe haven't heard, but then they're thinking like, oh, you know what? Like, I just want to keep on giving this podcaster a chance because I liked what this person said on this episode. Okay, let's see what next episode. And it could be something completely different, but guess what? It's still important, even if it's a different topic.
For sure, yeah. How do you record your content?
So currently right now, and this is no shame anyone, okay, for people that are wanting to be brand new on as a podcast. I'm not very techy. So for me, in terms of recording it, I literally am using on my Mac. I'm using GarageBand. I have a little mini mic, Hey, and we all have to start someplace, right? I do have a wonderful editor that her and I have worked together over the years. And she's been phenomenal with kind of, I tell her right now that it's kind of like, and people in the media industry know what the word predator is, and that's not a negative thing. It is a real thing. It's producer, editor merged together.
Right.
So she has been literally been holding down the fort for me, and I'm so pleased. So right now that's what I'm doing, and I have a mini mic, and I feel like, let me just work my way up and pace myself.
Right.
Obviously invest in good set of headphones. Thankful to my son for allowing me to use his the Air Pro Max, headphones. So they help. And I feel like right now, just because it's strictly just me solo talking and I'm just starting, once I get into conversational type of my podcast, and I'm hoping that will be probably in season 2, and also not just strictly just conversational, but eventually I would like it to be visual too, and so for anybody that's been following me now, thank you so much. And for anybody that hasn't, you can like, subscribe, and share, and follow on my YouTube channel, which is at the Thru Pod, and then on IG and on TikTok, I have those platforms for strictly like updates, promos, highlights, and that is at the Thru Podcast, a little bit different. So I say all this because to keep you all informed, updated with anything, once I end up going live, which eventually I do hope to. Again, I've learned to just kind of pump the brakes and say, Monica, there is no rush to get to that finish line.
Right.
Just pace yourself.
Right.
And look, I'm learning just from being here with you.
I think in a sense, like, you you are semi-visual because it is on YouTube.
Right.
Although, when you click on it, it's more like, hey, you see the intro where, like, you're turning on the ignition of the
Right.
car and it's taking off. And then there's, like, a cool background
Right.
with your picture on it. And there's, like, a sound wave bar of just you making dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah. What made you decide I'm going to pick YouTube as my platform versus, let's say, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music and et cetera?
Good question. So I think when I thought of YouTube, I've always heard like it's a big platform. And yes, the first thing I thought about was visual, right? Because when we think of YouTube, we think of visual, I mean, all these like, young kids today, having their social media influencers that, are on YouTube, right? Before the TikToks and the IGs, I mean, like YouTube has a huge platform. And yes,
Yep.
a visual base, it's huge on YouTube. So I think the reason that I intentionally sought out YouTube is because I knew that I wanted to kind of get my feet wet, if you will. So when it comes time to me actually being visual, it's not going to be just some, scattered place where people aren't aware of, and so now you can, I mean, you hear the voice, you can match it with my face. That's why it's important for me also to have that engagement, right, and connection with my audience on TikTok and on Instagram, where you see my promos where I kind of give you like a sneak peek of what's to come. And then also my listeners can also listen to my highlights too, that I usually pick like 1 or 2 highlights also leading up to what the episode we're going to be talking about that Thursday.
Right.
But Apple and Spotify most certainly are on my radar. In fact, I think it was just at the time, it was just like, what can I do? The easiest thing that, I can go ahead and get it out there right now.
Yeah.
Not in a messy way, but just that, I guess, the first thing that I could think of. But I know that you and I spoke about Spotify and Apple,
Yep.
and I know Amazon Music, and that is my next transition, because why limit yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So-
For sure. Like, because if you have something great going on, you want to try to pass it out to every avenue
Exactly.
as much as possible.
Exactly.
And there's again, a lot of avenues: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Already there's like a great trifecta, and I feel like the more avenues that you put your product in, then that's just another crowd that you didn't have before that you're slowly winning over.
Absolutely.
So that would be cool. And I'm hoping, for the Drive-Thru podcast, that it'll enter those podcasting platforms. And I hope you get to a certain point that, hey, Monica's actually going to be having guests on our podcast.
Yes.
And kind of having that one-on-one interaction.
Yes. And the one thing, Kim, I will say long term that I would like to have is I would like to have it at some point even be in a live setting.
For sure.
So traveling someplace, and that would be the ultimate way to engage, right? Having, my listeners really show up now as physical guests and want to, at the end, have a Q&A session, you know what I mean? And even talk to people even outside of that, because I don't want people to ever look at me as like, oh yeah, this is what I'm saying, let's push it out there and go on to the next episode.
Right.
Like me being able just to be in the same space with somebody and communicate, it's learning, it's growing, and it's connecting. And I think that's really what it's about in being a podcaster.
Okay. Do you see yourself, like, in the long run that, you will definitely make over a season, maybe like 2 or 3?
You mean in terms of seasons of having my seasons?
Of having your podcast, the Drive-Thru podcast. Do you see yourself long term, like, hey, I want to have 2 seasons, I want to have 3 seasons, heck, I want to have 5, 6, or 7 seasons?
Oh, absolutely. I've already completed 2 seasons as of right now, so I'm already working ahead now.
Okay.
So, and when I say they've been completed, they've already been, I've already have my topics and what I want to talk about.
Right.
But I always tell people, even when I'm doing my podcast, it's and as you know, you're not reading from a script. It is literally just like, you could have topics, right? And almost like a run of show, right? Like in television, film, like you already know what to do, what's expected. But in a space where you're just having conversation, you're literally just engaging and you're just talking. It's not like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn sort of thing too.
Yep.
But yes, longevity is definitely the key word for my podcast.
Okay. That's what's up. Well, this is the point of our podcast here, that we like to do a really cool segment. This is the rapid fire.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. It could be true, false, multiple choice. It could be fill in the blank. It could be, real life questions. It could be, fantasy lessons or questions.
Okay.
So that being said, are you ready to take on the rapid fire challenge?
I am ready. I guess so.
Ladies and gentlemen, she drove through her podcast, but she didn't drive through the rapid fire challenge. So, Monica Leigh versus the rapid fire challenge. I'm very curious on how this is going to go.
Me too.
So, we're ringing the bell, ding, ding, here we go. Between the primary colors of yellow, blue, and red, my favorite primary color is?
Red.
Favorite place that you've traveled outside of the country? If you have.
Yes, multiple places. I would have to say Greece, Italy, and Spain.
Okay. Favorite food?
Oh, Kim, that's a hard one because I'm just a natural foodie anyway. That's hard, but I would have to definitely say Italian and Mexican.
Okay. Yeah, I like Italian. But I'm also a sucker for sushi and Korean.
I know. See, so
Korean
guess
barbecue.
what? We're going to have multiple answers for that.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. That's cool. Spotify or Apple Music?
So I'm just going to say Apple Music because and no shade towards Spotify at all. I don't personally use Spotify, so that's the only reason that I'm saying Apple. And I am an Apple person. Phone, computer. So that's the only reason.
Okay. Fill in the blank. The reason I chose Apple over PC or over Android was because blank.
Just the green bubble and the waiting.
Okay.
And I'm probably just an Apple, an Apple fan, so sorry.
I'm not mad about that. Most of my products that I own are Apple.
Right.
I mean, I have a Apple Mac Mini at home. Obviously, I have an Apple Watch.
Yep.
I have an Apple iPhone.
Yep.
I mean, if I can get an Apple brand tattoo, I
Right.
I probably would have done that like a while ago.
Well, never say never.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I still have a lot of prime real estate. I mean, both my upper arms are covered, so,
Right.
and my ribs are covered, so we still have some prime real estate. Favorite car?
Ooh, Range Rover.
Okay. Coolest line that you ever heard in a movie?
Coolest line that I've ever heard in a movie.
If there is one.
I don't know if there is just one. Actually, but you know what? Just because this person happens to be one of my all-time favorite actresses, and she is an A-lister, and as you know, this movie drops on, I believe it's May 1st. That is all. Meryl Streep.
Oh.
I feel like she
Wow.
just like...
The
she's-
Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
Oh.
My gosh. I feel like when just saying that, it's just like, you don't say anything else.
No.
You just do an about face and you continue along your day and you mind your business for the rest of that day.
Okay. If you had to choose four of your favorite movies of all times, like Mount Rushmore,
Okay.
what four movies would have made it on that Mount Rushmore for you?
And they could be different genres.
It doesn't
right?
matter. It's
Okay.
your choice.
Okay. Coach Carter.
I like that movie. That was a good one. I actually watched that yesterday.
I'm going to say it because it's true. The Titanic, I just felt like... Listen, when people know, especially the younger generation today, they're just like, how could you sit through a movie that was so long? But when there was talent and there was a storyline, you stayed engaged. It's not that anymore. So, let's see.
Coach Carter, Titanic. We got two more.
Two more. I would say Top Gun. That was also,
Goose and Maverick.
Yes, the classic.
I feel the need for speed.
And I would say really digging into the bag that I could continuously watch this over and over again. I would say Pretty Woman.
Okay. I mean, what young man in their right minds wouldn't want to watch Julia Roberts? I mean, that was our adolescence.
Or
man.
Richard Gere, come on.
I mean, for those that,
right?
Richard Gere was a good-looking guy.
But these were like the nostalgic, they had storylines. They made you feel some type of emotion. And even just to backtrack a little bit, as we talked about film, I always said, whether I played the villain or I played the good girl, as long as your audience can have a reaction from your character, you have done the job correct.
Okay. Favorite sports stadium that you ever been to?
Sports stadium that I've ever been to?
Yes. Doesn't have to be here. Like if you went somewhere in the Bay Area, California, and you happen to be in that building for a sports event, what is your favorite sports venue for sports arena?
And we're talking about professional sports, right?
Whatever.
Okay. Well, I'll stick with professional sports because I will say, as much as I love to watch sports, and it's usually been pretty local in terms of if I watched a Wizards game and we were watching like the Golden State Warriors, it's because they played there.
Right.
But I would say Madison Square Garden. I absolutely love. Yeah, because at the Garden you can see a little bit of everything, but it is one thing that I can say, and actually there was Wizards played the Knicks. It was kind of like that electrifying experience, right? Like you felt like you were part of what was about to happen before the actual game started, So, and I think that also goes with, just what's happening, from the entertainment, from, the gearing up to introducing the players to the halftime shows to, when they engage with the audience for different contexts and stuff. So, yeah.
I've been to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's like people don't understand when you're standing outside of the Garden, there's a lot, and I mean a lot of sports history.
Yes.
Anything from like, old school basketball with the Knicks, Muhammad Ali fighting in, the Garden. A lot of great concerts that happened there.
Absolutely.
And
you're in the city where it never sleeps.
Literally. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, there is an Apple store in New York City that is open 24 hours a day.
Yes, there is.
Over on Fifth Avenue.
You might be in trouble if you went there.
I might be. I don't know. I mean, I might burn a hole in my credit card. They would have to literally throw me out.
Right.
So, all right. What are your favorite professional sports teams in the various sports that there is, like football, basketball, baseball, hockey, if you have one?
Okay. So I'll start with college first. Obviously, Terp for life. So, and that goes for anything Maryland. For professional, I would say for NFL, I am a Commanders fan, and it's, sometimes I find myself catching myself saying Redskins because that's what I grew up on, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So,
there's history there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Commanders as a professional football team. For my basketball team on a professional level, listen, I mean, you always want to root for the home team, but if I were to be completely transparent and honest, it is the Golden State Warriors.
Okay.
And I think a lot has to do with that, with obviously Steph Curry. He's more than a basketball player. I just think he's a great person. They have a great just a family dynamic, and he just speaks beyond the basketball court, which resonates with me. And of course, that's my son's favorite team too. For tennis, I mean, I wouldn't say, obviously a huge Venus and Serena fan.
Sure, absolutely.
But then we've got Coco.
Yep. Coco.
We've got Naomi.
Yep.
And I love this too. It's just like they are just, this era that we're in, especially just in women's sports, it is taking off.
Yep.
Obviously, I love the Mystics, and they've got literally a new team that they've started to rebuild and everything. But then, you've got like your Caitlin Clarks, you've got your Angel Reeses, obviously. Then you've got, your Paige Beckers, you've got your Azzy Fudd, that's supposed to be projected to be the number one WNBA draft pick this year. It makes it hard just to say just one team. For hockey, I would say the Capitals, and I'm going to tell you, Kim, especially when I was with NBC Sports, I always thought, like, how boring can hockey be, right? Because you're watching it at home.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
You see a bunch of men just skating, beating the hell out of each other with their sticks. And the first time that I brought my son there, it was, you had the comfort of being in a suite working. There was some of the perks, right? So, of course, it was like, you had your food and your drink and your private space, bathroom, everything. So you saw one angle that way, right? But then we went another time and we had glass seats. And sitting behind the glass where it literally, like, shook your core because these guys were getting, like, thrown up against the glass.
Right.
And I will never forget my son saying, "Mom, are they allowed to hurt each other playing this sport?" And it's like, what do you say? Because, I mean, it's allowed.
It's allowed, yeah.
It's allowed. But I tell people, I say all this to everyone, because if you have not seen a live hockey game, please, 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 I don't care if you don't like it or you don't understand it, just go there. I can honestly attest to this. You will have a different type of appreciation for this game, okay? And then for baseball, I am a Braves fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's random.
the Chipper Jones days. I get a lot of pressure. I'll say that. I don't want to say hate, but I get a lot of pressure, even from my friends like Monica, Atlanta. Why? It always has resonated with me. But outside of that, I just like seeing good sports, and obviously, as in the high school space now too, it's becoming even more competitive, than when we were growing up, right? Like now, it's just like you've got transfer portals are going crazy. It's not even at the college level; it's at the high school level, which is crazy to me, and it's more or less like in the private school bubble too. So it's just a lot to take in. But I like to be surrounded by good sports, good atmosphere, good games.
Best piece of advice that you ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've ever received. I know I shouldn't have to think this long, but I think it's always just, honestly, just keep going. Just keep going, because I have used that for so many things in my life, at different parts of my life. You talked about in the beginning of the podcast about when you need to take a break. It's okay if that's a month, if that's a year, if it's 2 years, right?
Right.
It's okay, and I resonate with this too, and I touch upon this also in my own podcast. You are allowed to give yourself grace. You are allowed to pause and take a minute for yourself, because life happens and we are not in control of that.
Yep.
And don't let anybody ever tell you, no, you have to, just take a day and then bounce back. Like and the one thing I always tell people, you can never tell somebody how to feel. You can never be in charge, and you should never be in charge of someone's feelings, ever.
Yep. Yep.
We are entitled to feel the way we feel, because that's our feelings and our feelings alone. If people want to share that with you, let them, on their own time. So I say, just keep going. Just keep going. Even when it's tough, keep going doesn't mean like, okay, Monica, you have to do it tomorrow. You have to do it in the next 15 minutes. No, just keep going. Whatever that translates to, just keep going. Don't stop.
Right. Knowing that you now have your own podcast, the Drive-Thru podcast with Monica Leigh, if you had your choice to have, your dream guest, who would that guest be?
Oh, who would my dream guest be? This is somebody that is
whatever you want.
They could be living or
whatever you want. This is you.
Wow, I have so many people. The one person that I have always said that I would like to have on my podcast that I probably would have just a falling out moment. Well, one, it would be two people, and two for two different reasons. One would be Michelle Obama.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
Even just thinking about that, it kind of gives me like, almost like just a little bit of anxiety because I just love everything about her, what she represents,
right,
what she stands for, how she presents herself. It's so important, and also for not even just the young women, but even to women, my age and older. She represents so much in how to conduct yourself, how to stand firm on what you believe in, and to live your life the way that you deem fit. The other person would be on the acting side of things, who's also a woman, and that is Viola Davis.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, it's just something about her in the way that she talks, the way she shows up, and how she stands up and supports other people, people that we might not even know. We all, have different followers, influencers that we have as our favorites, or that, we make sure that the notifications is on for. Sometimes, though, it takes people at a certain level, as a A-lister and a successful actress that she is, to kind of basically bring up a topic, showcase somebody, that is dealing with something maybe that she's spoken of, and it kind of helps also for us to say, hey, you know what? It doesn't always have to be somebody that's famous and successful. This is a real person. But remember, at one point, Viola Davis was just a regular person too. The beauty in knowing people that are successful in the entertainment world, they were just like you and I. I always say this, even with athletes, they were just like you or I. Their bank account just has a lot more zeros behind it, right?
Sure. Yep.
But as difficult as, it could be for one person, right? The level of success should not be measured by how much money you make. It should also be defined on what it is that makes you do the things that you do, be in the space that you are in, and why do you just keep going on?
Yeah.
Like Denzel Washington, he's another one too. Like I just have so many good ones here too. So first of all, if I could just have any of these people, we would probably have to take about 50 or 60 takes just so I could sit there and maybe get myself prepared and not hyperventilate, But also I would reference this podcast too, because this is where it all started. And like I always say, just keep going. You have to start someplace.
Yep.
And I'll make sure that you would be also invited to join in on that conversation too, Kim.
I appreciate that, for sure. If you can buy one piece of equipment right now for your podcast, what would it be?
I think, honestly, I would just like to get a microphone. I think a microphone. And I say this because I know, like, there's the PCs and, adapters, and there's very big high-tech stuff. But I think a microphone, because I think the microphone, to me, and just as I'm looking into it right now, it's like this is the starting point of a podcast.
It's a symbolism.
Yes,
yeah,
it is. And your voice is what people are hearing. Your voice is what starts the conversation.
Correct, yeah. Okay. Couple more questions.
Sure.
If you could get a tattoo right now, what would you get and where would you place it?
That's funny because I've been toying around getting a tattoo. Just so you know, I have no tattoos at all on me.
Tattoo virgin.
Yes. And it's not because I'm against tattoos, because I'm not. I think for me, and I've heard the horror stories of some of my friends, like when they just got out of graduated high school, they turned 18, it's like, oh, I can get one now, right?
Yep.
And they would get like something that they later on regretted, like a bear jumping out of a cloud, like, and they're thinking like, no, I want to get it covered up, or they just don't even like to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think for me right now, though, is that the reason I've been so hesitant is because I need to find something that I know, number one, it's permanent, but to know that I can carry on forever. And
Yeah.
if I look at it, then I know it means something. I think it would definitely have something to do with my family, especially my son, my mom, my dad, and also even if there's a saying or a scripture or something like that, not because that's what everybody's doing. And I think sometimes that's what happens. We tend to just go with, oh, this person's done it, so why? I think I should do it too. And guess what? Those people happen to be, famous in for whatever genre they are, and it's like, oh, let's go ahead and just get what they have because they are influencing them. But for me, I think I just need to find something that's meaningful.
Yep.
So I don't know exactly what that would look like. I just know that it needs to resonate with me because it's something that once it's on, I'm not going to ever look at it and say, I have regrets or I need to get it removed, anything like that.
I get that because there's some people that I know that are heavily tattooed and, looking, now it's like, damn, I didn't even know why I got it in the first place. And then, they're just like thinking like, man, do I cover it up with like another tattoo? Do I, laser it off?
Right.
Or the biggest craze is, do I do a blackout and just black out the whole thing?
Right.
Which I tell people, like, when they ask me about my tattoos, I tell them, like, look, it was at a time that I felt that, when I got that tattoo, it meant a lot to me. And there's a lot of significance in that. And if you're going to pick something, pick it for that reason. Don't pick it because it's a fad or at the time you felt like, oh, it was really cool looking or so forth. Because, you might live with some regret.
That's right.
You might live with, so to anybody who's a tattoo virgin, think about it now. I'm just saying, just think about it, because it's literally true what they say. It's like Lay's potato chips. You can't have one.
Right.
You want the whole damn bag.
Right.
So, you are invited to a dinner at a Michelin 3-star restaurant, and when you get over to the restaurant, you notice that there is one table with your name on it, and there's 3 empty spots for you to have a guest. Who would be those 3 guests? Now, it could be somebody that you know. It could be somebody that you don't know. It could be somebody that's famous. It could be somebody that is not famous. They can be living, or they could be deceased. Who are those 3?
Okay, so if we're talking and they could be living or not living, this is very easy for me. It would be my mom, my dad, and my son.
Wow. Okay.
I feel like, and because my dad's no longer living, if I were to have that 3rd empty seat filled, I would say, let it be a celebrity and let it be someone random, because I feel like if I were to cherry pick exactly who I want to be in that seat, I'm picking because of something that they've done that I've liked, or maybe a film that they've been in. But if you give me somebody, and it could even, to honestly, it probably would even be better if it was somebody, an actor, actress, that I'm not really familiar with. Like, I could be familiar with, like, oh yeah, such and such was in this film, it was good, but I don't really know about them. I would welcome that, because it's kind of like in the flesh type of moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
You want to probably prepare for this one, because this might be an emotional roller coaster of sorts. Say that door right now, and your dad enters, and you have 10 minutes before he walks away forever. What would you say to him?
I would just let him know just how inspired I am of him, and that I might not have seen it so much in my earlier days, but as I've grown older, and especially having my own child, he was the first man that cared for me, that loved me, that protected me, and for a young girl growing up, to have that protection from her father, it means everything.
Yeah.
I would also reiterate to him that, the things that he has shown me, encouraged me to do so, constantly reminded me, even at times it was just like, growing up, it was like, okay, I hear you. It's like it never went in vain, that it wasn't that I listened to what you were saying, but I heard what you were saying. Mm-hmm. And now I'm hearing you loud and clear. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay.
What is the one lesson that you would like to teach your son before he goes off into college?
I think the one thing that I would say to Jaden would be always be kind to people, because it doesn't cost anything. And also, don't expect what you give out and what you put out to people to be reciprocated. Keep living genuinely. Keep being a good person. Keep being kind. Keep being nice. Do the right thing, even when other people don't do those things for you, because it doesn't go unnoticed. Make good decisions. Mm-hmm. Even sometimes, I always tell people, sometimes the best decisions are the hardest decisions too.
For sure, yeah.
Learn to have boundaries, and learn, more importantly, to put yourself first. And this is something also that I have to kind of, bring myself back to reality, is that, Monica, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no, because I'm just a type of person in general that I just love to see people win. I love people to be successful, especially people that I grew up with, people that I've known in different spaces. You want to see people that you know and that you generally know that are good people to win, even when other people don't see it, because it makes you feel good. And guess what? There's a lot of people in today's world, they are not supporting you. They're not showing up to support you. They're looking and lurking, and on whether it be on social media or in real life, what they're doing is they don't want to see you succeed, because that's what it is. They are looking for reasons to be nosy, because number one, they are not happy with their own selves, in their own lives, whatever they're doing, mm-hmm. and they want to bring people down. So I say all this, not even just to my son, but just to anybody. Just keep doing what makes you happy, and keep doing the right thing, because I promise you, it is not being overlooked. And in the end, you will always win, no matter what. You will always win.
If you wanted to go back to acting, then what would be the main reason why you would want to go back?
Well, first and foremost, I do miss it. But the beauty in acting, you can be whatever you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. You can be whatever you want to be, and learning, especially if it's, let's say it's on a biography of somebody, right?
Right.
Like, you literally have to do so much research, studying and learning. If you have the opportunity to actually speak to the person, or even better yet, being in front of that person, mm-hmm. whatever their story is that you're, replicating, right? You have to make sure that you have it down to a T. So being able to be whatever you want, and in that moment, it could be somebody that, was a criminal. It could be somebody that was, based off of, they had some high, limelight lifestyle, but whatever it may be, for me, it was, you got to be whoever you want, right? It's fun. It's exciting, right?
Yep.
And then guess what? Because I still get this today, if I say something to somebody, I'll sometimes get, Monica, are you acting? You're being for real, right? And I'm like, yes, I am being for real. I don't need to act in real life, you know what I mean? Like, this is how I am, But the beauty in acting is that it is a craft. And like Denzel Washington said, listen, this man can get 20, 25 million, if not more, a film, right? Just because of he has worked so hard to get where he is. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be able to just sit there and let your name be resonated all over the world, and people know exactly what you bring to the table.
For sure.
But Denzel used to always say, you never stop working on your craft. It doesn't matter how successful you are, you never stop working. And just like I say, never stop working, never stop learning. Because when you learn, you grow.
Right. Feel that. 2 more questions.
Sure.
At the end of the day, when you actually look at yourself, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think at the end of the day, I want people to remember me by not what I said, but more so how I made them feel. And I'm sure we've all heard that before, because it is important. I want people to know that I was that type of person that you could always come to speak to, whether you need me to chime in and speak a few words to you or give my opinion, or if it's just listening, and I've done both of those. I mean, there's times where I've had friends, colleagues that have said, Monica, I need to talk to you. And what that really meant is me just listening to them for 3 or 4 hours, and it's okay. It's okay because they're being vulnerable and they're trusting you to be in that space with them. So I just want people to remember me as the girl that was goofy, that was relatable, and that would always show up for somebody when he or she needed her to do so.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody if they wanted to either, be an actor, be a podcaster, be in media, or do dancing? What would you tell that individual as, a piece of advice?
The first thing I would say is just start. Just start. Being an actor or an actress or a dancer, you have to start someplace, right?
Right.
These things can get very expensive. They can. So I think especially on the film side or acting side, if you will, getting acting classes, getting a private coach, getting a voice coach, getting a singing coach, the list goes on and on. Headshots, how often do you get headshots, and what I would say is this, something that I always said is this, even if you don't have an acting coach, which you don't need one early on, you do not. Every audition is literally getting experience, right? So you could set yourself up to auditioning for something, and an audition literally is building your own resume if you think of it like that. If I was going into my first audition, for a role in a film, and I had no idea what it was or what that looked like, other than I have a script, this is the role I'm reading for, and when I go in there, this is what I need to do. I would just encourage people, go out there, stay as confident as you possibly can. If you have truly researched that line or that character, just treat it as you are that character, because the best type of actors are the ones that I'm looking at. Like, for example, like right now, one of my favorite shows that I'm watching now is The Pit. And, the one thing about these doctors and nurses is if I didn't know they were acting, I would really think that that is their profession.
Yeah.
So I say all that to people to say, you know what, just go out, just start, just do that. Just go out, audition. These become part of your resume. These become part of your portfolio. On the dancing side, guess what? Just get into something basic. First of all, I always say that ballet, it is the foundation of all dance, but that doesn't mean that you have to stay in ballet. It's kind of like, for example, if I say to you, Kim, like for fighting, mixed martial arts, like, I did do martial arts when I was younger. I made it to my black senior. My brown senior. Yes, my brown senior. I did not get my black belt. Maybe I could at one point decide to go back.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. But the one thing for martial arts for me also was the discipline.
Yeah.
Right? It was the discipline. And at that time, I was the only girl in my class. I had guys that I was fighting, guys that I was competing against just the form.
Yeah.
But it's discipline, and it allows you to get confidence. So even for dance, it was like, okay, let's start with ballet in the beginner, and then it's just like, for me, I started ballet, tap, and jazz, and you start to kind of branch out to see what is it that resonates with you, right? So for me, I fell in love with ballet, but then it turned into contemporary, and then it turned into hip hop. You know what I mean? With martial arts, you could say, okay, start off with karate, but then there's so much. You've got kung fu, you've got taekwondo, the mixed martial arts, you know what I mean? Like the kickboxing and so on and so forth, right? The jiu-jitsu. So it's like you start with the foundation, and then you can say, hey, you've been exposed, to all these different types and styles. Now you know what you want to focus on. So in film, guess what? Oh, I love drama. You know what I mean? I love action. Stick with that.
Yep.
But for me personally, I'm not saying this for anybody else, just me. I like to allow myself to not feel boxed in as a specific genre when it comes to film. My next film that I would like to actually get into, I would love to get into comedy, and I think that comedy is probably, in my opinion, the most difficult and most challenging because it's all about timing.
Yeah.
Because you could say something and it's just like, I didn't get it, So, but at the same time, I've played multitude of characters too, from cops, detectives, the crazy girlfriend, you name it. So I just welcome the challenge, and I tell people out there, guess what? If you are wanting to start being in a creative space, dancing, acting, even fighting, martial arts, anything, just start.
Nice. Well, this is the part of my podcast show where I'm just going to go ahead and give you the mic, and you can say what you want to say, whether if you want to, promote whatever it is that you're involved in, if you want to talk about the next thing that you're doing, if you want to promote any of your social media pages, if you want to give a shout out to, anybody in general, I'm going to give you that time. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic right now, and you do what you want to do.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank you, Kim, for allowing me to be a guest in your space and being on my first podcast as an interviewee. So thank you so much. This has actually opened my eyes up to a lot of things. And also, believe it or not, this actually made me feel very comfortable to knowing what to expect when I start having guests on my own podcast. I think it's also a lot easier when, right now we're in a conversational space, whereas mine right now is just a solo. So it's like I'm just talking to whoever's wanting to listen, right? But I don't take any of that for granted. In terms of where you can follow me on my social media platforms, it's like Kim mentioned, it's called The Drive-Thru Podcast with Monica Leigh. My IG and TikTok handles are the same, which is _ The Drive-Thru Podcast _ at the end too. So _ The Drive-Thru Podcast _ again. And then for full episodes, for listening in its entirety, you can watch them on YouTube, and my handle for my YouTube is @The Drive-Thru Pod. So it's a little bit different. New episodes drop every Thursday at noon, and I welcome all new listeners. I am thankful for all my current listeners and followers, and I just am here for the journey, here for the ride, and also here to learn and embrace everything that comes with this. And again, I just say thank you to everyone, and just everyone that's been a part of this journey. Like I said, it's been less than a month that I've dropped my podcast, but I'm so thankful for this space, and I'm happy with where it's going. And I will just end in saying that it's never too late to start something that you have always kept in your head, because remember this, a goal is just a dream until you have actually made motion in making that come to life. Okay? So we all have dreams, right? We have more dreams than we have goals. That's the truth, right? But if you really want to make it to the finish line, put that dream in motion and just start. It doesn't matter when, just start.
Wow. 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 Monica, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you as a guest on my podcast show. Again, like I said before we were recording, it had been years since last we saw each other.
Yes.
Obviously, the years have, treated you very well. Glad to see that you're, active in your own way, and that you decided to jump down that rabbit hole to do podcasting. I myself realize and know that it is a challenge.
Yes.
And it is not easy. And, when you first start out, you're not going to get it right away. Things are not going to be perfect, and that's always going to be consistent. That maybe one day you have the perfect episode, and the next one, not so much. Mm-hmm. But I applaud you for wanting to do this. I will continue to support from the sidelines and to continue to listen to your content.
And also, Kim, first of all, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I will continue to do the same for you as well. Go ahead, and also, because when you post this, I also want my listeners to also be familiar with your podcast as well.
For sure. And, open invite if you ever want to do a round two.
Okay.
Like, seriously, like if you just want to,
for it.
If you want to do a round two, or if you just want to do an episode where we talk about something and we could have like either a point counterpoint or like a female perspective point of view, I will leave you the skeleton key to the door.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy woman, and we definitely appreciate that the fact that you came over to the space and hung out with us.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
For sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and wrap this thing up because, wow, the one thing I will say about having a guest, it's so rad when they're in here. And it's so awesome because, you literally start the clock, and next thing you know, when you're ending it, you didn't even realize how long you were there until it's like, it's over. So for the fact that I was here for a good amount of time, that was time well spent. Very well spent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a podcaster, time can never be wasted when you have an in-person guest, and especially one that you know very well and you have you vibe with very well in that atmosphere. So yeah, that's really cool. Let's go ahead and close this off, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't have a lot of time. Find your boy on Facebook. Go under the search box and go and find him under the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. He is on there. I am also on Twitter, now known as X, and on Instagram on my tag name at TKHPC Experience, all in one word. Follow me and I'll follow you back. We are up on a lot of podcasting platforms, 6 as a matter of fact: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Now, do me a favor. Please like, follow, and subscribe to my podcast on all of those podcasting platforms that I did mention. If you have Spotify, please give me a 5-star ranking. If you have Apple Podcasts, please give me a 5-star ranking and a positive written review. Because the more times that you do that for both of the podcasting platforms, then my podcast will possibly be thrown into the front line. Somebody might look at it, and then somebody be like, oh my gosh, it's the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. My boy Reggie was telling me about it. He said that this is off the hook. We need to follow, like, and subscribe. Yes, please do. And share it on all of your social medias, the Facebooks, the Instagrams and the Twitters, the TikToks and the Snapchats and all that stuff. Or if you know somebody in person, like a family member, a friend, or a coworker, tell them in person, because in the business, sharing is caring. We appreciate it. Excuse me. Last but not least, if you want to be a guest on my show, if you want to be a guest host, constructive criticism, or if when I do my own solo episodes, if you got a question for my Q&A, hit me up. The Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, put it under the subject box. Then write the email, send it out. I like communication that way, and you know what? It'll probably take me about like a day or two. If I'm really, really like on it, I probably will get it with you within an hour as soon as I receive it. But give me a little time and I will get back to you. I do appreciate the communication that way, and we'll just keep on moving. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is it, and we are about to wrap it up. It is a great day to be here over at the KU Dungeon over in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Once again, shout out to Sean Queen for the space. Brother, I love you. And thank you to everybody who has supported, who has listened, who has spread the word about the podcast. I truly appreciate it. And I say this like a broken record. This is not just my podcast. It is our podcast. We made this happen. We did this together. You know what I mean? And I appreciate everything that you guys have given me. It's so great to do it. I do it not only for the fact because I love doing it, but I feel like, I'm giving back to the community, and that's important. That's really important. So guys, please be safe out there. It doesn't do us any good if you land in a pine box and get buried 6 feet under. We don't want that to happen to you. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be happy. We want you to be taking over the world, because you deserve it. And anybody else that tells you otherwise, just hit him with the jump back kick to the face and tell him to F off, because, we got no time for their negativity, and just real quick to all y'all, mental health is real. I feel you. I understand you. I stand with you. And if you need to talk, talk to your boy, get him somehow, email me, private message me, let me know that you're not feeling good. We'll talk about it for real. So that being said, for the one time here over at the KU Dungeon in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Number one, I want to thank my guest, Monica Leigh, who has graciously once again took her time to be here. She didn't have to, but the fact that she kicked it with us is incredible, and I will not forget that. It is awesome. Yeah. As always, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to, again, we have to leave it like this because I want to, promote and so forth. If you have a YouTube near you, and I know that you do, whether if it's on your computer, if it's on, your gaming console, or even your portable phone device, whether it be Apple, iPhone, or the other products, Android, but, we won't talk about that. Please tune in to the Drive-Thru podcast with Monica Leigh, which every episode drops every Thursday at 12 noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You won't regret it. So, again, for the one time, this is your boy, Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation. I am the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power within the hour, the dude with the right attitude, and the guy that's never whack because I'm a 3rd degree black in Taekwondo, saying thank you, God bless you. We're going to do it once again, and I promise you, the next episode is probably going to be better than this episode. So, sayonara, everybody. I love y'all. Be safe, be well, and tune in to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. We are out of here. I need to go ahead and get maybe some Korean barbecue with 100 ounces of Mountain Dew. You do what you need to do. We are out of here. Peace.